On the day of September 26th, I woke up around 12 in the afternoon, 12 to 1, and I was going to the restroom, and I saw my son leaving while I was going to the bathroom. And I asked him, where he was going, and he told me an acting audition. And for some reason, I pushed his room door open, and it was a total mess. So I went back to the front of the house, where I called him back in the house to make his bed, because he only has one chore, and the one chore is to spread his bed before he leaves the house. And he comes back, and he goes in his bedroom, and he's spreading his bed. And Katie, she storms out of the truck, leaving my son Ezra and Olivia in the back of the truck, and she storms out of the truck, and she starts to scream and yell frantically that he's never going to have an opportunity like this, and if he misses this, he's never going to amount to anything in his life. And I kind of ignored her because I didn't want to get upset, because I'm thinking, Owensboro, Kentucky, if he misses an audition, he's not going to amount to anything? Like, it's just ridiculous. And I sat on the couch in the living room. About maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I checked on Omari, and not only was his bed done, but his whole entire room was done. So I said to my son, Omari, don't take my kindness for a weakness, but go ahead to your audition. And he said, thanks, Daddy, I love you. And I said, all right, love you too. And actually while he was in his room, she had went to the side of the house, the left side of the house, and she was banging on the window so hard I thought she was going to break it. Later thinking about it, I thought she may have been on meth. She's been losing parts of her teeth. There's a certain stench, and like she just was moving so fast, so rapidly, and talking so fast, and just could not stay still. And her eyes was just so big and weird, So Omari got in the truck, and she slammed on the gas so hard that I had called her immediately, because I thought she gave Ezra and Olivia, my 3-year-old and my 2-year-old, whiplash from how hard she slammed on the gas. Anyway, we hung up, I went back in the house, and then I went back to sleep. I was sleeping, and around 7 o'clock at night, I remember it was dark and it was raining. I was sleeping, and that's when she shot me. I was sleeping on my stomach, on my chest, and that is when she shot me. And I got up and I screamed, Kay. I screamed for her. I yelled out, Kay, because at first my initial thought was the ceiling fan had fell on my head. But I remember the ceiling fan hasn't worked in years. So I'm wondering what's going on. And I'm thinking something's blown up inside of me, actually. And she's the only one in the house, along with Ezra, my son, my 3-year-old son. And I scream out for her, and I open up the front door, and I go onto the porch where I'm blood, like a can of Glade, just sprayed out of my chest from where I got shot here. And I'm bleeding out profusely all over the front porch. And I can't take another step, so I sit on the steps and I lean up against the red brick on my left shoulder. And as I try to raise my left hand, my left arm, I realize this thick gush of blood comes leaking out of my elbow, my left elbow. and that was when the other bullet had went through. So I guess I was probably shot maybe twice that time. I'm not really sure. I was in shock. And as I'm bleeding out on the porch, I'm telling her to call the ambulance, call the police, and she's like, okay. But then I said, before you do that, could you record me? Because I think I'm gonna die. So could you record me so that I could tell my mother, my father, and all the people, my family who I love, and my children, that I love them, and to do good. So she did record me on her phone, which the police have in evidence. And while she's recording me saying goodbye to my loved ones, she says, "Don't tell them I shot you," in the background. And police has that in evidence. And like 10 minutes go by, then 20 minutes go by, then 30 minutes go by. And I'm like, where's the ambulance? Like, where's the police? Our neighbor came home, and I yelled for her to tell the neighbor to call somebody or get someone. And she didn't run, but she kind of scampered, like scurried a little bit over to the top of our hill. And I couldn't hear her because she was obviously trying not to make me hear what she was saying to our neighbor. I guess she was saying to the neighbor, he's just kidding or something, I don't know. But I was trying to yell, but I could not yell because I was bleeding out. So the neighbor goes inside her house, and another half an hour, I'm bleeding out. And she actually covered me with towels and some clothing, because I told her I was cold and it hurts and I think I'm gonna die. So she got towels for me. A little over an hour, I said, you know what? Get the kids in the truck. I don't care. You got to get them up now because I'm really gonna die. And she proceeded to get what I thought was both of my children in the back of the truck. She went twice. One of the times she faked with some clothing to make me think that it was another, like my kids. But she only put one child in the truck, and that was my son, 3-year-old son, Ezra. And I couldn't fit where she had pulled the truck up to, because I didn't think I was gonna make 3 feet. I didn't have any strength. So I asked her to go back in the truck and just pull up a foot or 2 more, which she did. So as I got in the truck, we went up my hill, then we went on the little curvy road up top of 18th towards the hospital. Walking to the truck wasn't as bad as I expected, but when it came time for me to get into the truck and position my body to get into the passenger seat, I didn't think I was gonna make it. The pain was so excruciating. However, I got in the truck, thank God, and she proceeded to drive to the hospital. As soon as you could see the hospital, as soon as you could see the hospital in the far, far distance, she started to pump on the brakes, and then she'll gas it, then pump on the brakes, then gas it. And I'm saying, hey, what's going on? And she's telling me that something's wrong with the truck, when she was the one pumping and braking and doing all of this. Nothing was wrong with the truck, the police told me. They said my truck drove fine. But apparently that's what she was doing to buy herself some time, and she pulled me over on the side of the road. I would say we were maybe about 50, maybe 100 yards from the hospital's entrance ramp. Pulled over to the right side, and a white pickup truck slowed down, stopped, looked at me, looked at her, and went ahead. At this time, I'm, of course, telling her, call somebody, and she's like, I'm on the phone with the hospital. Now I'm on the phone with the ambulance. And 2 ambulance passed the opposite direction along with a sheriff's car. Then one ambulance was heading our way, but it had all its lights off. And I said, oh, thank God. Why don't they have their lights on though? And she said, oh, I don't know, but they're gonna make a U-turn because they passed us. And I'm like, why did they pass us? And she's like, they're gonna make a U-turn. They never made that U-turn. They kept going. She was yelling and cursing at someone on the phone, the hospital, saying, I need help now. He's fucking hurt and I need help now. Apparently there was no one she was on the phone with at all. No one. She was faking and pretending the whole time, just like she was with the truck. At that time, so much blood had drained from me that I leaned forward onto the dashboard. And she got out the truck and came behind me, and that's when she shot me in the head. And the bullet went from here, out of my mouth, and my neck. And that was when I heard all the teeth in my mouth shattering and just clinging in my mouth. Kind of like a chandelier of pieces of glass just clinging. So she then proceeded to go to the driver's side, and I looked at her with a big guap of blood draining from my mouth and teeth spilling out and said, Kay, what's happening? At that point, I still thought something was blown up inside of me because I couldn't believe this could be the woman I love for 15 years. So I spit out all the pieces of my teeth onto the dashboard. Should be still on in the truck if they haven't touched anything. And she got back in the truck. I guess she really felt bad now because she saw the damage she'd done. At least I would hope she did a little. And she proceeded to drive to the hospital. Only this time the truck wasn't stopping and going. It was just driving smoothly. And then once she got in the parking lot, I guess she must have remembered, like, oh shoot, you know, and then she started once again making it stop and go, making it stop and go. I said, I have to get out. I don't know what's all going on with you. I don't know what you're doing. As I got out the truck, I didn't make it but 4 feet. And I knew all I could do was make it 4 feet back into the truck, or else I was gonna fall out and just bleed out in the cold and the concrete and the rain, right in the hospital's parking lot. So I got back in the truck and I told her, you know, there's an ambulance right there and there's 2 guys out there. The hospital should have surveillance. And I said, drive over to them. And she's like, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. And I said, don't worry, we have a truck. You know, whatever those little trees we run over, you know, my parents, they'll pay for it. You know, so we have a 4-wheel drive truck, just drive right over it. So she exited the hospital, and I said to her, Kate, what are you doing? Are you trying to kill me? And she's like, no, I'm not trying to kill you. And she said it kind of weird, but at that point, you know, I'm in shock, and I've been bleeding out well over an hour now. And when I asked her it, I wasn't serious, because I still wouldn't believe that that's my Kate that did this to me. So we drove around some like area. It was probably about maybe a minute away from the hospital. And I remember seeing another sheriff car pass. And we was in the middle of a street, and to the left there was a house, but it looked like a house/business. And then to the right of my passenger where I was, it just looked like a nice home. So I got out and I said, you know, this is now or never. I gotta make it to this house so I could get some help. So I walk all the way to the house. I put my back on the door and I start to back kick the door. I got about 4 or 5 good kicks in. And I saw a light come on, a very nice blonde lady was walking and she turned on the light, and whatever she had in her hand, she dropped immediately when she saw me. And she screamed out, and I asked her, I said, please help me, God help me. And I remember her saying, just screaming and saying, God is with you, God is gonna help you, you'll be okay. And then from her screaming, she alerted her husband. And he came in and he told me, he said, don't worry, buddy, we're gonna get you some help. And as soon as he called, he said, don't worry, help is on the way. Honestly, I think the response was maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and the police and ambulance had the block like covered. The OPD's response time was phenomenal. The way they treated me was phenomenal. They treated me as if I was family. That's how I felt. The ambulance, the police, they made me feel like family. At that time I was heavy, like really heavy, and I thought they wasn't gonna be able to pick me up, but they lifted me up light as a feather. And I remember the sheriff yelling at Katie, telling her, don't go anywhere, because the woman said, that girl over there. And I remember the sheriff saying, hey, don't you move, like, stay right there. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you don't talk to my wife like that. Like, who is this guy talking to my wife like that? Like, she's trying to help me. And little did I know, it was all her. So the ambulance guy, he's asking me, I think his name was Josh. He's asking me, sir, what happened to you? And I said, I think something's blowing up inside of me. Because when she shot me the second time in the head in the truck, the movies do a terrific job, because it's exactly like you hear this, and everything's in slow motion for about a good 5 seconds, and then back to reality. So
you never realized you were shot?
No,
So
the ambulance guy had to say, sir, like he got stern with me, and he said, sir, you have been shot. Because you gotta remember, it's 15 years. 15 years, 3 kids, and we were happy. In all relationships, no relationship is perfect. You got your good times and bad times, but for the most part, everyone we know kind of wanted to be us. We were the it couple that everyone wanted to be. A lot of people we knew were single parents or wasn't getting along, but when they came to our house, it was nothing but love. Like, we cooked a lot and we hosted a lot and things of that nature. A lot of kids would come and spend a night at our house, and always wanted to spend a night more, because I'd be staying up playing video games with them and things like that. So the doctor, I remember when I went to New York, everyone was ranting and raving about him because of the work he did. He was phenomenal. And I remember them working on me, and then sometime later I was in a different room upstairs, and he gave me a cup to drink, a little cup like this to drink, and about 10 seconds later I just spewed out nothing but blood and like pieces of whatever was coming out of me into this canister. And I was filling that canister up like it was a hefty amount of blood. And right after that, I remember just going to sleep. And then they had said, we're gonna put you under anesthesia because we gotta, have surgery done to your jaw to get the bullet out of my jaw. So I remember them counting to about 6 maybe, and I was out, and they did the surgery. After they did the surgery, my family had came to get me, and I stood in the hospital over here for about a week, about 7 days. And then my family took me from here to Jacoby Hospital in the Bronx, New York. And I was in my hospital gown because my left arm was in a cast and I could barely move. So I couldn't really change into clothes at that time. And we took about 3 buses and then the Amtrak. And that's how we ended up in Port Authority, New York, Manhattan. And that's when my brother had picked me up, well, us up, and went to my parents' home just so I could take a shower. And right after I took a shower, I went straight to Jacoby Hospital. That night, there was 4 traumas. There was a terrible accident. And all they could draw blood from was one arm. And they were young, and they didn't know how to do it right. So I got poked that night about 12 times. I got blood drawn from me, and they didn't know how to do it. But because of the traumas, I ended up sitting there in the emergency room all night long. I finally got a room 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. And from there, it only gets better. Like, it just gets worse because there was a lot of gnats in the room. I had a roommate that was just kind of foul.
Let me ask you. So, you took a plea deal today,
Yeah,
and your attorney says that plea deals for 5 years. I believe that's what I heard.
yeah,
And he doesn't think she'll spend another day in jail.
right.
It's
She
only
had,
been 6 months ago that this happened, right?
right.
What do you think about this?
I think it's a travesty. I think it's, part of our unfair system in America, the history of it. The people you could basically get away with murder. Because when my lawyers had played me the phone recordings of her in jail, she would talk to me and tell me how she loves her family, she's sorry, how she misses me and she loves me and she wants to get back together, and how we have to move out of Owensboro and all this is over, and she admitted to me like she was on meth. And I looked up, meth, and I just was like, okay, because I knew that wasn't my cake, I knew it had to be meth or something that, they call it the demon drug. So I knew that couldn't be my cake, because I'm sleeping. No one's attacking her, I'm knocked out sleep. Not laying down, but actually sleep. And she shoots me in the back. And then in the truck again, climbs in the back of the truck and shoots me again in the back of the head. And for this to turn out this way, they're saying that I said that I want this all over, that I didn't want her to go to jail. That was somewhat true. At that time, I still thought that was the Katie I knew and grow to love. And I thought, I do want this over with. And she was on meth, and I don't want her to, have a life sentence, What I said to them was, I just want all of this to be all over, and I want my family back. That is what I said. And the jail phone recordings, there was so much evil and conviction in her voice. Like, I remember writing her letters, and I had sprayed cologne one time, and she's talking to someone and she's saying, could you believe he sprayed cologne on the letter? Like, oh my gosh. And then he starts telling me about how his neck hurts him and he can't sleep at night because the scar chokes me at night. and he's talking to me, telling me about his side hurts, and his mouth hurts, and his elbow hurts because I have a metal plate in my left arm. And she's like, fuck him. And then at the same time, she's telling me, I love you, I want to be together. And then there's a friend, I believe, Lauren, she's talking to, and she says, you know, Lauren, why don't we just, after all this is over, just move away with our black kids? And I'm like, whoa, that doesn't sound like her at all. To say, why black kids? You couldn't just say kids, or you know? And then she's talking to, I don't know, her mom and apparently a TJ or something, and she asks, are you gonna leave me now? And I guess he says, well, it's been 5 years, I'm not gonna leave you now. And then she's telling her mom this thing and painting a picture saying I'm crazy, and she's making me seem like this monster. She's saying that I've been abusive to her and the kids. And they have had my just turned 11-year-old son for 7 months now, corrupting and poisoning him and coaching him, making him say all of these things. We had court last week, and he was reading from a notebook before he saw the judge. And then the judge realized and knew that, you know, he was being coached. So the hate that she's bestowing on her mother to hate me, it's so severe that they hate me more than they have any love for my son, because they're screwing up his head, and he's only a little kid. So he may have to have counseling for the rest of his life because they're screwing with his head.
So you don't have custody of your kid?
No. I've been in, my family didn't want, she told me not to come, Katie told me not to come to to Owensboro because there's a good chance she could get out if I don't show up. And then also I had no money, no ways to get to Owensboro because my parents, they didn't want to give me any money because they know that that's the first thing that I would do. But the detectives had told my parents that she had put a hit out for me. And my parents was telling me that's why they don't want me to go over there. My parents are very old-fashioned, you know, extremely old-fashioned type of people. So my mom worries for the slightest thing, you know, and what I just can't get over is all the years we've been going to New York. And she's been with my family for Thanksgivings, for the past 14 Thanksgivings. And every summer, how we buy fireworks right outside of New Jersey. And how all these kids come to our house, and I just don't get how she could just flip and get that cold. So I realized, you know, she's psychotic. And she told me she was going to school for her associate's degree. But I found out that she has a degree in criminal psychology. And I was told that those are the people that learn to know how to break the law and get away with things. And it's been a living nightmare because you can't, a decent human being just can't shut off love. Well, I can't just shut off love like that. And once upon a time, she did love me, and she was very good to me and our family. She claimed domestic violence. Not one time has she called the cops. All that is false accusations. It's just a cover so that she could get away with it and people could feel sorry for her. She claimed that she has pictures and evidence of this abuse. Plenty of times she's been living her double, triple life, and I would ask her about the bruises she has, and she'll make up some excuse. So whoever she was hanging out with, or whatever guy she was with, I'm just guessing they were the ones doing that, but she pinned it on me. A lot of times when we would argue, I would send my son in his room because I wouldn't want us to argue in front of him. And she would do things like slam herself on the door, slam herself on the wall, and make it sound like we're actually physically fighting. And I would ask her, do you want to make Omari think that we're fighting, like something's going on? And little did I know, I was so naive and not paying attention. She was setting it up all along. All along, she was setting that up. So while Omari's in his room and he's hearing this clashing and this and that and yelling, of course he's a young kid, he may be thinking, well, I don't think mommy could beat daddy, so it gotta be daddy because he's stronger, you know. So they had him since, and all three of my children, I haven't seen them since September 26th, the day it happened. However, I just saw Ezra and Olivia last week, and I'm a hands-on dad. Like, I have to see my children every single day. I've turned down jobs where I could have made better money, where I was not around for a week or two, and I couldn't do it. I have to see my kids. I'm not the average dad. I gotta see my children wake up every single morning and rush in on me and jump on my chest and things like that. Every Sunday before football, I take my kids to Chautauqua Park. Every Sunday. You know, and then she takes the kids supposedly to her mother's house. I think what she was doing was maybe dropping the kids off at her mother's house and then hanging around with the wrong crowd she was hanging out with.
So, what do you think of the appropriate sentence, or would be an appropriate sentence?
For attempted murder, I would say at least 20, 25 years.
They dropped that charge today, didn't they?
Yes, sir. They sure did.
Kidnapping?
Yeah. But even then, I wouldn't really want her to do life because I believe in change. I believe in God, and I believe when you have God, anything can happen. So I wouldn't want her to have a life sentence when she's changed in, 5, 10 years. And she's better than ever. And possibly with God, anything could happen. And maybe there could be a miracle and we could have our family back. But just nothing at all. For everything she did, like she planned all of this, and she destroyed our family. The way her mom is constantly complaining how she hates my son, her mom, and she's telling her over the phone, they have the records. I'm not just saying this. She's telling her over the phone, well, why don't you just put Omari in River Valley? That I don't know who that is. That's not, our kid could be the baddest kid ever, and we would never put our kid anywhere. We'll deal with it in the house. But to hear her actually say, well, just put him in River Valley, I don't know who she is. Another thing, I believe her mother have seen these signs, but her mom is just the type to support her and not know her and not know how to talk to her. So that's all her mother knows how to do, and all she's doing is feeding the flame. And I do believe in the future, this won't be the last time you heard of her. Like, she is psychotic and she will do something else in the future, if not to me, to someone else. And I'm also unarmed, so I fear for my life, because I never know, you know. I'm constantly checking the windows, the doors, work 2 jobs to get my house so that I could have a 3-bedroom house for my children. And I will get my children because that's who I'm fighting for.
Physically, how you feeling now?
Oh, I still hurt. I still hurt every day. This metal plate on my arm, I can't do regular push-ups anymore. My side still bothers me. Most thing that bothers me is my the scar tissue in my mouth from the bullet. Sometimes talking, drinking water, it will just slip out of my mouth. I'll be embarrassed. You know, I feel this slumpness on the left side of my jaw. I don't feel like I looked before. And yeah, that bothers me also. So yeah, there's quite a few things. She could have just spoke to me. Just spoke to me. If I was this bad guy, you couldn't say, hey, meet me at a restaurant, meet me at the park, somewhere public, to where we both won't act out. Meet me at my mom's. Have you ever told your mom one time, hey, can we spend a night at your house? Because I'm scared to go home because he hits me. Never. Never. Never has the police came over, arrested me for nothing at all. There's so many different people that have came to the house. Yeah, I'm strict on the kids, but so much people have came to the house. Spend nights. Never. There's never one report of anything. So you get a couple bruises in this town, and you take a picture of it, and basically you just point to whoever you want to, you know, tell this lie on. And that's it. And she would always tell me too, she would say, because she liked watching Dateline and Snapped, and those were like her favorite shows. And I would always joke around with her and be like, hey, you need to stop watching that. Do I got to worry about something? I never thought in a million years I would actually have to worry about something. And she would always, jokingly, I thought, would always tell me, you know, I could get away with murder with you. And I'm like, no, you can't. It's a new law today. It's different. And she goes, I'm a pretty little white girl, and you a big old mean black guy. And all I got to do is just like take your nails and scratch under my skin and just say you did this. And I would just laugh it off like, oh, whatever, yeah, right. And little did I know, I'm still in shock right here, right now, that she's the only girl I ever was in love with, ever. She's the only girl I ever just handed over my check to. Only girl I trusted with everything. I did take a lot of things for granted. I did not pay attention to her like I should have. I have broke her heart and cheated on her in the past quite a few times, and just thought she was always going to be there. So little did I know, with her mentality, and then I guess the hurt of me cheating on her with these different women, like I guess she bottled everything up. And her watching what she's watching and going to school for what she's going to school for, and the drugs she's doing, I guess it all took effect. And I believe that's how the devil got in her to do this.
You'll be back here on April 21st, 22nd?
22nd, yes.
Gonna come back and see what they say.
Yep. But I just want her to change for the outcome. She wasn't always like this. She was not. And she's so cold now. She's a completely different person. I miss the old her. And I'm so scared for my children because I think they're surrounded by evil in that house. You know, I don't know what she could do. Maybe one day she thinks I'm doing something and to get back at me, because she knows the kids are my life. The kids are my heart. They're the air I breathe. So I don't know if maybe she wants to get back at me, she does something to the kids. And her mom won't see it coming. And her mom's already just blinded and believes what she wants to believe. She calls herself a church woman, yet she's full of hate. You know, I have no hate towards her or her mother. I have no animosity towards her or her mother, even to this day. What hurts me the most is waking up by myself every day, not seeing my babies. At times I even still miss her.
Because once upon a time, we was a beautiful family. But I know in my heart of hearts, I didn't deserve this. Nobody deserved this. She could have went 1,000 different ways. You know, we could have went on a break. She could have broke up with me. I'm thinking, why did she do this and what could be her motive? The only thing I could come up with is she know that I would never leave my kids. So I guess the plan was to get me out of the picture, kill me, and go off with whomever she's seeing and take the kids. If she was gonna take the kids, because she don't seem like the kids is the #1 priority anymore. She's different.